Hi everybody, we're talking vases today. And I know that might seem like a bit of a random topic, but I get asked about this a lot. And what I find is that there's a little confusion with people in regards to the style of vase they have and the style of flowers that work in that vase. And that's often the biggest issue with arranging at home, or, getting delivered a beautiful bunch of flowers and then you don't have quite the right vase for that particular design, and then you wonder why it looks rubbish and you think that it's all you and it's the reason why it doesn't look any good. So I'm going to talk you through a bit of a fetish of mine, I guess. I'm a bit of a hoarder of vases, and you'll see why. This is just a very small sample of how many I have, but I love vessels in general. So let's talk through these. All the way from these little baby ones that I have here. Now these are actually handmade on a wheel, on a pottery wheel, pottery vases, and I just fell in love with them. I just put a couple of little dried flowers on them, have them sitting on the shelf as part of a nice little vignette, and they're minute, but really, really special. And even just in that size, they do hold water. So you could pop just a tiny little, a couple of little violets or something really sweet in there. And now next we have our little glass frogs. So these are a little vintage find. I can only ever find these now in op shops, or sometimes gifted by some elderly people in our community, which I love getting those. This is old school mechanics. This is pre-foam. They were glass, little holes, and allowed you to sit into little vases, a little bit smaller than that, but sit into a little vase or a little bowl and hold the flowers in place. I don't use all of them all the time, but I don't know. It's just, I guess, the fact that they're so old school now, and, I just love them. This is another one. This is out of uranium glass, which I love as well. And this one has a frog insert. So they're all glass, beautifully made, gorgeous little boat. This design, this vessel can be a little bit tricky to design in and need really light flowers that are, light in weight and light in appearance as well, just so that they float out of the vase. But it's still really gorgeous. I love it. Now this one you might be familiar with. This little terracotta pot is the container that those cheese dips come from Woolworths. So if you're in Australia, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I just buy those dips basically, well, so I can eat the dip, but so I can keep the vessel. And these are perfect for little Kensins. So you can pop your just Kensin in there, 3 or 4 or even 10 of these down the table with your flowers just growing out of the little pot. They're perfect and so inexpensive. So you can use your Kensins for really anything out of your kitchen cupboard, which it leads me to this beautiful one. This gorgeous bowl is handmade by Mel from Clay Beehive. I'm absolute huge fan of hers. And it's glazed on the inside, not on the outside. I love the textural nature of it. And again, this works perfectly for my Kensins. And, this is a bowl essentially for a kitchen, but they live down here. And also, if you do want to know more about the Kensins and how they work, and all the different sizes and varieties of them, I do have a product show and tell just on the Kensins, which are these little guys here. So pop on there and have a little look. Pottery vases I love. So these obviously are waterproof, they're glazed on the inside. But these are the types of vases that work perfectly in the home or corporate offices or anywhere where no one's going to change the water. Everyone seems to get a glass vase, but unless you're going to change your water every second day or every day, there's nothing worse than a filthy glass vase of dirty water. So these work perfectly for being a bit of a lazy lazy flower lover, but I love that this is handmade, and I've had this for probably 30 years and I still really love it. So but something like that would work really well for a little posy. So an all-round bouquet, something quite short that you would have, say, on your coffee table or in the middle of the dining table, rather than on a shelf or something like that. So really good style and shape for a little posy. This beautiful vase, got this from Susie Anderson Home in Moss Vale, which is a beautiful homewares store, and God, I just love it. I love it, love it, love it. So this is, I guess, a modern day take of the frogs, and gorgeous, lovely, thick glass vase, but it has two discs, one a little bit smaller than the other, and that essentially is a mechanics to hold the flowers in place wherever I want to design them. So what you'll find when you've got these really broad vases, they're beautiful, but to try and sit a bouquet in that evenly is almost impossible because of the width that you have across here. So having, you know, the Kensen would work in here as well, but for this is part of the design, and so it's there that you would, you know, essentially see this. You can, you know, extend the flowers out one side, make it really quite modern and contemporary in that design, in this kind of vessel. But I love this. I use this a lot in the home. Let's have a look at these little bottles. So a really inexpensive way to make a big impact is by using just little bottles. You might find that you know, your food jars, your bottles of alcohol, like gin bottles are beautiful. Take the labels off and you end up with, you know, some really gorgeous glass containers. And you can imagine that when you have these in groupings, you know, 3 and then another, say 4 and another 3 and another 5, all down the table, single stems, multiple stems, all different heights, you can create a really gorgeous array of flowers and textures and a beautiful look for a party at such a low cost. So things like that work perfect en masse. So if you've got an opportunity, you know, you go to the op shop, my favourite place to go shopping for vases. You know, you can often find a whole range of bottles and jars that work really well together. So that's a really good option for that. On the other end of the spectrum, this one cost me a fortune. It was a real splurge, but I absolutely love it. I think it's from India, I think, and it's all hand beaten and etched, and there's so many things I love about it. This is a real favourite of mine. Again, a big round full bouquet works perfect in this. It's heavy enough, it holds enough water so that it holds really you know, sturdy and stable, but I can put a really large bouquet in this and it looks amazing. So yeah, I have a real soft spot for this one. Things that are one-offs I love. Paper pottery. So if you've had a look in the tutorials already in the library, you'll see that we already have a product show and tell for Import Ants, and they sell this paper pottery. All biodegradable, compostable. They have a earth-friendly rubber resin inside that biodegrades as well, that holds the water, and these hold water really, really well. Again, perfect if you don't want to have to clean the water too often, you want to put some flower food in there. So again, perfect for those corporate offices or for homes if you don't want to have glass. And the fact that they're light and unbreakable, they're really great for the floral industry. Really something I know for sure if I had a retail space right now, I would definitely have a whole range of those in there for sale. This little guy here, I love rectangular vases. They are quite tricky to design in though, I would say, and you can sort of see why. Your flowers tend to kind of go one side or the other, which can be a little bit tricky, but the trick to these is, and I show you this actually in my winter vase tutorial, is actually adding branches first. So if you're adding lovely blossom branches, or as we did in the winter tutorial, we added quince branches, they act as a support and a structure, so that when you add your flowers in, you can stand your flowers up vertically, off to the side, wherever you want to go, and the branches actually act like a lovely mechanics and support. So the alternative to that is actually a style which is quite popular and really lovely and contemporary, but you can imagine a full bunch of tulips just coming out one side is beautiful, and a really asymmetric design, super simple, but really gorgeous. And this sort of beaten glass, I love the, I guess the kind of the way it morphs the water, you know, it kind of changes the water in there. It's really interesting when you put the stems in. So yeah, just a little trick about those long vases. Okay, as we move down, fluted vases. I also mentioned these actually in my winter vase tutorial. I love this shape vase. If you're looking for a vase for the home, if you don't have, you know, anything else, this is the type of vase that you want. Works perfectly for an all-round bouquet, also works really well for a frontal bouquet, where if you had it on a sideboard, the flowers are just at the front. It's the shape of this flute that allows the flowers to really expand and extend out and can make the bouquet look a lot bigger than it actually is. It allows you to put a lot of material in there, but doesn't squash it up like I'm going to talk to you about this one. So it allows you, you know, your foliages and your flowers to really breathe and extend out. So if you want a really natural looking bouquet, this is the vase for you. And they're usually pretty inexpensive too. They're really good. Now this little guy, seems like lots of people in their home have a cylinder vase. They're the hardest vases to use for regular everyday flowers in your house. So as much as I love this, and I do love these on a dining table because the flowers actually sit above your eyesight. So when you're sitting down at the table, you know, you can easily look through them to talk to your friends and you don't feel like you're there in the way. So I do love that extended height. They can look really dynamic and impressive, but they do allow for very vertical placement. They don't really let too much escape out from the side, unless you've got some, you know, draping or cascading material that would kind of hang down the side of the vase. But mostly you want branches, tall leaves, like blossom, you know, things that are quite rigid, quite stiff, and they need to be very, very long stemmed because mostly because of the shape of it, everything will sink to the bottom. So you need obviously that much length, plus you want to really kind of take it about 2/3 above that. So, you know, considering the vase is around 1/3 and then 2/3 height. So you really want something quite tall for that. So if you do have a cylinder vase, it can still work, but just be mindful of what you put in there, and you're quite limited with the types of flowers you're going to put in there. Okay, lucky last, giant fishbowl. Again, I love these big statement vases, but also, as you can imagine, you know, you would have to have a giant bouquet in there for the width of the top. But in saying that, fishbowls were really popular a few years ago, and it seemed like everyone had one, you know, about this size, a fishbowl vase. They are also quite tricky to design in because they have all this body underneath, but a really quite small top. And so you would find that they are a bit tricky to design in. But what I actually do with this one is I run spear grass or long pieces of really fine, something that's quite malleable and pliable. I actually only take the water, you know, up to around here, and then have the grass kind of swirling up against the glass and then it's cascading out. We should do that one time. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that in our next vase tutorial. Because there's some really interesting things you can do with a really large vase like this that's super cool and almost terrarium-like. Like you're almost looking into the vase and looking at what's happening inside it rather than what's on, you know, above it. So just because you've got a really big vase, don't be too scared of using it. And yeah, we'll definitely do a tutorial on that because they're really cool. Okay, so a couple of other things I wanted to mention. An additional way to sort of stabilize your flowers and stabilize your stems and essentially create another mechanics for these larger vases is to actually add stones, shells, pebbles. You might have seen them with glass beads, things like that. And you can then insert the flowers into that base, and it allows you to have a little bit more support and a little bit more direction about where you're placing your flowers. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is cleaning. I know it gets tempting just to tip the water out, throw your vase in the cupboard, but bacteria does stay within your vases depending on what material they're made out of. And the biggest factor of having your flowers last the longest they possibly can is clean water almost daily. So at least every 2 days cleaning the water, recutting the stems. You will have heard me talk about this all in the conditioning and care tutorial that we have in the library. But the other thing is to keep your vases really clean, and just a bottle brush, on any of those if you can't get quite inside them, you know, into all the nooks and crannies. But I make a mixture up of white vinegar and a little bit of dishwashing liquid in water, and that works so well. It just it works really just as good as bleach. Bleach is, you know, obviously so bad for you, especially if you're using it with bare hands, and so bad for the environment when you're tipping it down the sink. So my alternative to that is white vinegar and a little bit of dishwashing liquid, warm water, shush them around, clean them up, and they come up really sparkly clean. As well as that, any sort of citric acid, sort of like a lemon juice or that type of thing, will work really well as well. Remember to always fill your vases to the top with water as well. It drives me nuts. I can't believe how many times I will see, you know, a vase like this, a bunch of flowers in it, the stems only come to say here, and they fill the water up just to the very edge or not even all the way. It's like, you know, when you pour yourself a cup of water for a drink, you fill the glass up, right? So do the same for your flowers. Take it all the way to the top. Let them have lots of clean water to drink. You know, they're no different to us. They don't want to drink slimy, filthy water, and they die off so quickly when the water's dirty. So, you know, make sure you fill your vases up, lots of clean water, recutting their stems, and your flowers, you won't believe how long your flowers will last when you do that. Okay, I think that's it. If you've got any questions at all, you've got some strange vase, send me a photo or let's talk about it. Pop it in the comments box below. And I really look forward to chatting with you in there about this, because I'm sure you've got one at home that is an absolute nightmare to design and arrange in. And I'm so happy to offer you some tips if I can. All right, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.